It's time once again for the whole 9 yards. Hello everyone, I'm Ralph Ventre here in the NEC Front Row Studios prepping for Week 7 of the FCS schedule. In terms of the NEC, 6 of the 7 programs will take to the gridiron in Week 7. 2 games against Ivy League members and 2 conference games. Robert Morris is on the bye. We have a lot to talk about. Let's jump right in to the No Huddle preview. We kick off the Week 7 preview featuring Sacred Heart. The Pioneers will host Ivy Leaguer Cornell at Campus Field. It'll be the first home game for Shoe since Week 1. After opening with a convincing win over Division II St. Anselm, the Pioneers hit the road for 4 consecutive games sandwiched around a bye. After a pair of disappointing losses, the Pioneers jumped back into the win column in Week 6 by winning their NEC opener at Robert Morris. Now they close out the non-conference slate against the Big Red. Yes, Cornell comes in with an 0-4 record, but Mark Nofri knows his team better be prepared for a fight on Saturday.
You know, we talked about it before. We haven't been home since September 5th, and that's a long time coming with 4 away games and a bye week in there too. I think everybody's ready to come home and play in front of our home crowd and here on campus, and I know the kids will be ready to go. They're expecting, a pretty big crowd, but Cornell's a very good football team. Their record doesn't show it, but they played some really tough teams so far this year. They had Yale beat there at the end. They played Harvard, which is a top 15 team in the country. Bucknell's, like I said, an outstanding football team, and they went toe for toe with them. So their record doesn't, dictate how good of the football team they are. They have a good quarterback. They got some tight ends that they like to throw to that are very good. They're big up front on defense, and I think they do a great job down there. And I think that, our kids are going to have to play their butts off and do what we ask them to do and play a good game.
Now it's on to matchup number 2 on the Week 7 docket. This one will unfold in New Britain, Connecticut. Central Connecticut becomes the second NEC team this season to face Ivy Leaguer Dartmouth. The Big Green took care of Sacred Heart at home a couple weeks ago. As for Central, they come into Saturday's contest with a bit of momentum. Last week on a root field, the Blue Devils took down NEC preseason favorite Bryant 35-33 with a number of big plays late in that one. Whether it's been running back Cameron Nash or the quarterback tandem of Jacob Dogala and Tavion Paldo, we've seen a number of playmakers emerge in recent weeks for Central. But will they be able to contain the Dartmouth attack on Saturday? You can watch all of the action live right here on NEC Front Row. Now it's time to dive into the conference portion of the Week 7 slate. And it's a good one. There will be an NECFB on ESPN3 doubleheader this Saturday, October 17th. It starts at 12 noon Eastern Time in Smithfield, Rhode Island. It'll be the top 2 teams in the NEC preseason poll doing battle before a national audience. Duquesne at Bryant. Bryant, which enters off of last week's loss at CCSU, features a rather potent offense. In terms of yards per game, the Bulldogs have the NEC's leading rusher, Ricardo McCray, and the NEC's leading passer, Dalton Easton, throwing for more than 240 yards per outing. Now, we had a chance to speak with McCray earlier this week, and he shed some light on Bryant's run-pass balance.
Bryant has been known as being a running team, and so that's kind of the identity that we built. And over these last couple of years, we're starting to see a change in our identity. Like you said, with Dalton coming in, playing quarterback, we have Chad Ward, Taylor Barthollet, Jose, Aaron Barrett and John Lavin, 2 6'5" tight ends to throw the ball to. So, we have receivers out there that can catch the ball, which ultimately helps me out. That spreads the field. The defense plays us more honest. They don't stack the box anymore, which gives me more running room. And, I like to think if I get some space, I'll take advantage of it.
So Bryant has carved out an offensive identity for itself, and so has Saturday's opponent, the Duquesne Dukes. The Dukes have been one of the NEC's most potent passing attacks in recent years, but this season they've been passing and running the football effectively. In terms of the pass game, quarterback Dylan Beekle leads the Northeast Conference in passing touchdowns with 11 and total pass yards, more than 1,300 in the first 5 games. In terms of running the football, the Dukes seem to employ a little bit of a running back by committee, but whatever they're doing, it's been working. Duquesne leads the Northeast Conference in yards per carry at 4.6. So the bottom line, you're not going to want to miss this one. Duquesne at Bryant, 12 noon on ESPN 3, the first half of a doubleheader. Plenty of firepower awaits. And now on to the second half of that double dip. After signing off at Bryant, we'll throw it out to Loretto, Pennsylvania, where St. Francis U plays host to Wagner. It'll be a fresh start for St. Francis in more ways than one. First off, it's the Red Flash's NEC opener. They'll be the final team to lift the lid off of their conference slate. The Flash should also have some freshness in those legs come Saturday, as they had a bye week following a convincing victory at East Tennessee State. Now, as for Wagner, one has to imagine the Seahawks will come into this game hungry, foaming at the mouth for their first win of the year. Wagner will look to pick up the production on offense, as the Seahawks have been limited to only 9 points over the previous 2 games. No matter who the opponent, however, the Wagner defense has a knack for keeping the Seahawks in games. The defensive unit has surrendered only 2 touchdowns over their past 8 quarters of play. These two teams have played some wacky and wild affairs against one another in recent years, so as to the victor in this one, it's anyone's guess. But it could come down to special teams. And the good news is, both Wagner and St. Francis have been effective in that phase of the game. Both teams have home run threats as returners. Lorenzo Jerome has taken 2 kickoffs back for touchdowns this season, and Wagner's Otis Wright has been a threat to take one to the house ever since his rookie year in 2012. And then there's the place kickers. Both Wagner's Brian Maley and St. Francis's Lance Giese are comfortable kicking in the 40 to 50 yard range, and both can hit from 50 and beyond. So special teams execution could prove to be the difference, but you'll just have to watch to find out. Live, 3:30 Eastern Time, ESPN 3, Saturday, October 17th. It's Wagner at St. Francis. So the preview is complete. Now, let's take a breather with our weekly Twitter Time Out. In this segment, we feature a top NEC-related tweet from the past week in social media. This one comes from Joe Ackerson, a Pioneer football fan down in Alabama. And as you can imagine, Joe was pretty fired up by that Pioneers defensive effort and last week's win at Robert Morris. In our NEC Game of the Week, the Pioneers limited Robert Morris to a negative rushing total, and we're fact-checking you here, Joe. They forced an NEC single-game record 8 turnovers. Joe, as you can see, only had them for 7. So even more impressive than Ackerson once thought. So according to AC, the Pioneer defense is back, and they hope to keep it going this week against Ivy League member Cornell. The final segment of our weekly show, we break down some X's and O's. Well, sort of. We look at one featured prime performer on the offensive side of the ball, and then we bring the spotlight over to a defensive star. We start on offense with the Bryant Bulldogs. They'll kick off the first half of our NECFB on ESPN3 doubleheader. And who do we feature for Bryant? Receiver Chad Ward, the senior who played his high school football down in Florida and is known to his teammates as Ocho, has exactly 400 receiving yards through his first 5 games this fall. He has 3 touchdown receptions to his credit, including this game winner at Brown. And Ward leads the Northeast Conference in terms of yards per reception. He has 21 catches this season for an average of 19 yards per. Bryant's Chad Ward will likely be an X factor Saturday on ESPN3. Make sure you're tuned in. Now for the second half of the segment, we keep it right there in Smithfield, but we move over to the Duquesne defense. It's Duke's defensive back Trenton Coles, a Western Pennsylvania native. He began his collegiate career competing for ACC member Pittsburgh. After transferring to the Bluff, he played 9 games for the Dukes last year, became acclimated to the new system and the new role, and this season he's had a bit of a breakthrough. In 5 appearances, he has 4 pass breakups and a pair of interceptions. He's 6'2" and has tremendous athletic ability, and he'll look to slow down that Bryant passing attack in the first half of our ESPN3 doubleheader. So we've moved through the 3 phases of our Week 7 preview, and that just about does it for this edition of the Whole 9 Yards. But don't forget, folks, it's a can't-miss Week 7, Saturday, October 16th. 2 non-conference games against Ivy League members, and then our NECFB on ESPN3 doubleheader. Get your dual screen setup ready and tune in to NEC Front Row and ESPN3 and have one heck of a Saturday afternoon. For NEC Front Row, I'm Ralph Ventre. We will see you next week on the Whole 9 Yards.